Specialist 4 Thomas E. Collins, United States Army, Vietnam. Folks, I interviewed Thomas in Cape May Court, New Jersey. It was January 8th, 2009. Thomas is still around. He was 61 during this interview. And this story has been lost. It really has. I have so many stories. I don't mean it's lost where I can't find it. It's just, I just found this the other day. I didn't realize I had his story. We haven't shared it yet because I was going to make a second Vietnam film and I haven't done that yet. But he would be included in it. But Thomas, great man, just a great man. I so much enjoyed my interview with him. He actually has started and was the founder of a museum there locally. It's called the Forgotten Warriors Vietnam Museum in Cape May at the airport. And he has a traveling exhibit he takes around, just teaching people, educating people about Vietnam. Has a Huey helicopter there. Just amazing, just really my kind of guy. I was hoping we could work together. But Thomas was drafted in 1966. He tells a story. He was in Vietnam in 67, 68. Thomas went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for basic training. Fort Eustis, Virginia for advanced training, was a supply part specialist. That didn't sound that exciting, does it? Well, he gets to Vietnam. He's with the 80th Transportation Unit, which is part of the 121st Assault Helicopter Company. And he volunteers to be a M60 machine gunner, door gunner, on a Huey helicopter. And then he went to the gunships. Man, does he know what he was volunteering for? Folks, he tells a story on his first flight. Within the first hour, they crashed. And he tells a story. It's amazing. But he survived, obviously. But he suffers with PTSD from Vietnam, like a lot of my veterans, and has been troubled many years. He worked as a police officer for almost 30 years in New Jersey. And so he has that to tell about. I was going to interview him for that, too, because I have 2 films on featuring law enforcement officers called Beyond the Badge. And but we didn't talk too much about that, but just a great story. I just am so thrilled to tell these stories. I love the crews of the Hueys, and he got into some pretty hot situations. Of course, they acted as a dust-off, as a medevac, as they had to, the wounded and the dead. That's always very sobering. So, but I'm going to thank some people for helping me share some of these stories. I'm going to take a moment here. I want to thank David Abbott, faithfully supporting my work, Rita Schultz, Mary Frank Hauser, Helen McCarthy, her father, Tom McCarthy, is one of my World War II Iwo Jima Marines. Mina Jones, first time working with Mina, and Lori Weckball, she's been supporting my work. Gals and guys, thank you. I don't say it enough. I'm so grateful for all of you for helping make it possible for me to share these stories. There's a lot of love that goes into these stories, a lot of time burning the midnight oil, as it were, to present these stories. And I wish I could put them out faster. With writing 2 books now and working on the productions, it's just becoming a little more difficult, but they're still going to happen. But gals and guys, thank you for supporting my work. I so appreciate you, and I just want you to know that. Okay, thank you. Okay, folks, let's honor Thomas Collins. I believe he's still with us today. He better be, because I want to call him. But I think you're going to really like the story. A lot of you like the Vietnam stories. And in my book, Capturing Courage on Camera, can I make a plug for my book? I'm feverishly writing this book. It's going to be several hundred pages, lots of photos, lots of whatever I've gone the last 25 years, my incredible journey. So it's very hard to write a book. I didn't realize it was this difficult, but it's going to be a great book. And it's called Capturing Courage on Camera. I hope to release it on Veterans Day this year, and there'll be copies available everywhere. Okay, folks, Voices of History Radio is on the air 24 hours a day. If you want to download the app for free on the Google Play Store, or go to my website, larrycapetto.com. It's right there. So I encourage you to listen to that and share it with our younger generation. We are so blessed to have these stories, and the freedoms we have is because of our veterans who fought for our freedoms. And that message is communicated through these videos and on my website and on my radio station. And I thank God I can serve Him and my country through the lens of my camera. God bless you, and I hope to talk to you soon. Hope to hear from you soon.
in April.
April. Okay, so you're 61.
Right.
Okay, let's don't rush that, right?
Right.
61. Okay.
Right.
What year were you drafted?
I was drafted.
What year was that?
I was drafted in 1966
Okay, and where were you living at that time?
in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So you were drafted. I mean, you come out of high school and Vietnam's.
No, I dropped out of school
Okay.
and I was working.
So
Then I got drafted.
Did you expect to get drafted?
I knew it was coming, but I went and got married. And I went on a honeymoon, came home, and my draft notice was on the table. So,
You remember that day?
oh yeah.
Was it a shock?
No, I felt like I was dumb because I didn't go and tell them. So I went to the draft board and told them I'm married, and they said, "Well, that's too bad. You should have told us that 6 months ago."
Oh boy.
And away I went for 2 years.
Where was basic training?
Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Were you air mobile? What did you do?
No, I was. Everybody goes through basic as an infantryman, and then my advanced individual training was at Fort Eustis, Virginia, which is. I got trained to be a supply and parts specialist in a helicopter unit.
Okay. And what unit was that?
Well, they sent me over to the. After I finished that, I went to Vietnam, to the 80th Transportation Unit, which is attached to the 121st Assault Helicopter Company. And I worked in the parts house inside the hangar for about a month and a half. And then I did something you were always told not to do. It was too boring in the parts house. So I volunteered to be a door gunner on a UE helicopter. The next day I was sitting in the seat.
No training?
Well, when you go through infantry training, in basic training, they teach you how to use all the weapons. And the M60 machine gun is one of the weapons. So I had familiarization with that. But what they did was, my first day, they sat me down in the seat and said, "Here's your M60, here's your ammo, everything." And I said, "Well, what else goes with this?" And they said, "Well, if somebody shoots at you, you shoot back." That was my training. Then we went out, and that picture shows the first helicopter that I went out in. And that was the first day, first mission, first hour of flying in a UE helicopter, and they blew the tail rotor off when we crashed. That picture shows you. That's the picture after they brought it back from the rice paddy.
Well, I have to admit that helicopter looked a little beat up.
Yeah.
First day?
First day.
You guys actually crashed?
Yes.
Tell me about, okay, you probably have thought about it a lot since, but can you just walk me through that event and crashing and landing or whatever you guys did? I mean...
Well, we were putting the ARVN troops in and out of an LZ. And we were going back in to pick them up again. And we were what they call trail, which is the last helicopter. And as we're coming in, we didn't know it and the pilots didn't know it. And I was brand new. I just had an hour of doing that. And I felt the helicopter like shake. And then all of a sudden we started, they told us if a helicopter goes down, another ship or so will go with that ship. And to get everybody out of it and make sure that, if it has to be blown up, it gets blown up. If not, they'll retrieve it. Well, we started going around in a circle. We were about 800 feet when we first got hit. And what they do when you auto-rotate, and I found this out after the occurrence of this crash, they drop the sticks in the helicopter, and which turns the blades a different direction so it'll come down. Then when you pull the sticks, it turns the blades and put a cushion underneath you of air. You'll still hit hard, but you can actually make a landing. Well, they put the sticks down, and I didn't know what they were doing, and they started going around in a circle. So I figured, and I could hear the transmission in my radio, in my helmet. I could hear it. Okay, we're going down to not realizing it was us. I thought we were going down to get the other people out of the helicopter. Well, he got close to the ground, and he pulled the sticks, and there was no tail rotor. And without a tail rotor, you spin like a top. Well, it came down, and it turned on my side, and we hit in the rice paddies, and I went underwater, and the blades broke off, one blade. The other blade came around, it hit the ground, and it kicked the helicopter back over on the other side. Now my crew chief is underwater. And what you're told to do is you get out of the helicopter, you take your weapon, you take everything you can with you, and you get out of the helicopter and you open the front avionics cover, that's where all the radios are. And you pull the radios out of it and you take them with you. Well, I got out and I had the belts of ammo that were wrapped around my head from the crash. And I grabbed my M60 and I got up on top and I'm looking down in through the helicopter and half of it's full of water. And I don't see my crew chief. All of a sudden his head comes up out of the water. So that I knew he was okay. I ran up to the front, and this is kind of the funny part now. And the two pilots were out already. And I jumped off the front of the helicopter. It's laying on the left-hand side. And the engine's still turning, JP4 spitting out all over the place. I run up to the front of the helicopter, and I jumped off with the M60 and everything. And there I go into the rice paddy, just like a stake in the ground. I was up to here in the rice paddy and couldn't move. And the water splashing all over the place and JP4 spitting out. And at that time I didn't know that we were being fired upon. That's what the splashing was. The other helicopter came down and it moved over and they took my 60 off me and everything they could. And that door gunner said, "Hang on the skid." And I hung over the skid like this and they pulled me out like a cork on a bottle. It actually went like that, and I climbed in, they took us back. Then they got it out of the rice paddy, and that's the one picture you see of it.
That's your first day?
That's my first hour.
So
that was my welcome.
What happened when they got a replacement helicopter? Did you want to get on it?
I went back on again, and I got to the point where actually putting troops in, putting troops out, and it just got kind of boring then. And so I volunteered to go to what they call the gunships, which are nothing but rockets, machine guns, nothing but armament. There's 4 crew members. You don't carry passengers. And so I volunteered for that.
So you didn't carry many troops with the Huey?
The Huey, you could, it depended if they were the South Vietnamese or the Americans, how many you could carry. Anywhere from 10 to 12 to 13,
Were
depending.
you on any missions with the troops or just?
Oh, that's what we were doing that day. We had already put them in.
Okay.
And we were going back to take them out. And see, when you have an LZ, the helicopters go in like this, but if you ever see that on television again, look in the background, and you'll see the gunships are flying around the tree line, blowing everything up.
Yeah.
So I volunteered for that after I volunteered for this.
So in the gunships, were those Huey helicopters too?
They were UH helicopters, UH-1Bs.
Did you ever go into hot LZs or?
All the time with them. When you're on the gunships, you got called up 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You were most of the time I ate sea rations. Anybody that would be getting overrun at night, mortar attacks, anything, they would send the gunships out.
Well, your story's bringing back a lot of memories. I've done over 100 interviews with people like yourself in Vietnam, and a lot of them were with the Hueys. And the focus of my first film was the Hueys. And in fact, the very first thing you hear is a Huey, nothing on the screen.
Yes, you can't.
It's a sound you'll never forget.
Right.
But can you tell me maybe a couple missions with the gunships, hot LZs? Just give me a couple of combat stories.
Well, there's stories that I remember distinctly, but I don't know if...
Whatever you're comfortable in sharing. I mean, I just want you to just...
Well, people getting overrun, you come in, and what would happen is they would pop smoke and show you where they're at, and give you an idea of where the enemy is, and you just blow everything and anything up that's anywhere around them because they're starting to get overrun, and it's, a lot of time it was at nighttime. You're going in and there's no lights on the helicopters, everything's off. Just come in and do what you have to do. They've already popped a trip flare or something showing where the enemy would be.
Well, tell me about, you're coming into a hot LZ. Does it become routine? Every mission different? Tell me about the adrenaline rush.
At
what point do you start firing and then How fast does it all happen?
Well, as soon as you come into the LZ in a gunship, you automatically blow everything up that's around you. Like they would have a tree line look like a horseshoe, something like that. The transports would come in this way into the horseshoe, and you would be blowing up everything in there if they haven't blown it up with artillery or Sandies, which is a plane dropping a napalm and so forth, and you just clear that area. But what the enemy would do is they would go underground. And after all this is over, if you don't keep their heads down, when you come into that LZ, they open up on the transports. Because they're already coming into an area that's blocked off on the way out. So a lot of times that whole, it might be 10 or 12 helicopters, might have to turn around. If they can't, if there's a 51 caliber sitting in the woods there, it'll just knock you right out of the air. But we would go in and we'd automatically, we'd have it set up ahead of time, okay, we're going into this LZ. And as soon as, if we heard one round or took one round, that's a hot LZ. And everything and anything that moved would be done.
Are you fighting the Viet Cong, the North Vietnamese, or both?
Both. Mostly the Viet Cong in South Vietnam, that's where my unit was. It was 121st Assault Helicopter Company out of Soc Trang, which, by the way, was the first helicopter unit in Vietnam in 1961. We were the first ones. And
was your tour 1 year?
1 year, 13 months. Yeah, I didn't want to do any more. That was enough for me. You see enough guys, you know, there's almost 40 guys on a plaque I have at the museum from my unit that did not make it back. It's just helicopter crewmen.
Were there any close to you or on the same flights of you that were wounded or killed during any of those missions?
Yeah, all of us. Right.
Going in, coming out?
Both going in, coming out, can't get out, shot down in the LZ. There's a time, everybody called it Easter Sunday, where it was so bad, the LZ was so hot that 2 medevac helicopters were shot down trying to get a crew out of 2 other helicopters that were shot down, trying to get them out. And it got so bad that we have what we call a Tiger Surprise and Viking Surprise. That was the transport helicopters were the Tigers, and the gunships were the Vikings. And we all had these. Now those surprise ships would have they would have spotlights. They would have 50 calibers on them. They would have a minigun, so forth, on different sides of the helicopter, which just meant for total firepower. Well, they would also have smoke machines on them. And we had one ship that stayed on station most of the time we were in the LZ, in this hot LZ, trying to get our guys out. And he made so many passes with that helicopter, blowing smoke out the back so the enemy couldn't see what we were doing, that when he got back to station, they were trying to figure out how he made it back here. There were so many holes in him, the crew, and the helicopter, they couldn't, there was no oil in the engine, and it flew back to the compound. And it just sat down on the ground, and it just stopped totally. And they took them guys, yeah, they were all shot up. Oh, but he continuously went back and went back and went back, putting this smoke cover out. He wouldn't stop.
Well, when you first started experiencing this combat, I mean, what's going through your head? Is it chaotic? Is there a peace? Are you fearful? I mean, what are the emotions you're going through?
Well, you're scared to death. I mean, anybody that was in Vietnam that says they weren't scared, no matter what their job was. It didn't matter if you were a clerk, typist, or a cook. That mortar can come right in that building and just blow you apart. So if anybody says they weren't scared, there's something wrong with them. You get scared for a little bit, you're thinking about it until it starts. And then you just react and do what you have to do. Then after it stops, then you're starting to get scared again, like, I don't believe what I just did. But then it becomes routine after a while. You know, you're going out, you're going to do this, and you come back.
Tell me about any opportunities you had to help the wounded. in and out of the helicopter?
Oh, when I was still on the slicks, we would pick up the wounded. We would also pick up the dead, and we'd bring the wounded back. Well, if the medevac couldn't get in there, we'd get in there if we could, and we'd pick up the wounded. Sometimes in a gunship, we've picked up a wounded person because nobody can get in there, and we'd put them on top of the ammo boxes. The gunship is full of ammo on the inside of it. We would put so much in that helicopter that we could stay on station more than like a Cobra or something like that, purposely, that the pilots couldn't lift it up off the ground. They would actually have to bounce the helicopter down the runway, and we would be outside of the helicopter, kind of run alongside of it till he could get enough lift to get it up off the ground. Then we'd hop back in and go because there's so much weight of the ammo and everything we put in there on it.
What was your rank at this time?
I was Spec 4, E4. A door gunner, that's the highest you could go. Now, if you were a crew chief, you could go to E5 or Spec 5.
So after you've done this, you're on call. Is there any downtime? You guys have like a debriefing? Do you sit around and have a beer? What do you do to?
There was what they called an EM club, and your helicopter's sitting here on the compound, and EM club's like right here, and what they call a hooch is right here, and your helicopter's right there. See, we would have to go from there right to the helicopter and take off like a mortar attack. First thing, we would be going to the helicopter and pulling the rope off the blade, and the pilot's cranking it, and you're hopping in, and you're going down the runway while the mortars are coming in to go silence that mortar because it's blowing everything, especially Tet Offensive of 1968. That was really bad. That was January 31st, 1968 at 2:30 in the morning. The mortars started coming in. That's it. We ended up lifting up off the runway, going on the other side of the concertina and everything, and just blowing everything up. They were that close. Every other base in Vietnam had them inside the wire. There were cement bunkers that they were inside of. And as you ran in, the other guys, like clerk typists and so forth, stuff like that, ran into those bunkers. They were cutting them down as they ran in. That was all through Vietnam. They infiltrated everything. They were on our runway. They were throwing them in the satchel charges inside the helicopters, just blowing them up.
Yes, I am.
So.
Hi. How are you?
Look, I've told this pretty young lady I'm not high. I haven't had anything.
Are you John? No?
John.
Are you the next interview?
Charles Rowe.
You're Charles. Okay. Can I have you wait out in the
No.
back out there?
No.
No? You didn't get my message today on the phone?
No.
Okay.
What was it?
Okay. We'll talk about it in a little bit here. Okay.
No, I'll go out.
No, you're okay. You can watch. Just the camera's rolling right now. Everything you've said has gone on the camera, so it's okay. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Tom, you know, when you're talking, you know, the stories that I've heard, it just, as a civilian, it's hard to imagine, you know, what you've been through. And I can just look at you and tell you've gone through a lot with Vietnam, but obviously it's still part of your life. I mean, you have a museum, and,
Right.
and have you ever been to the Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C.?
I've been there 4 times. I've taken people from the museum there as try to help. And right now, Vietnam is, my wife can tell you, it's my life. I live Vietnam every single day. And it's good. It's been helping a lot of people. I was bad, and my wife can tell you, to begin with. When I came back, and most of the guys that are Vietnam vets do not have their first wife. And if up until we started a museum, if my wife and I went into a diner or something like that, where there was a lot of people around, and someone, they didn't have to be Vietnamese. Anyone with Oriental eyes, I would have to start something with them or leave that building. I hated them. Then I started the museum. I got better, and I got better. I've gotten a lot better. I got to the point where the enemy that I fought against in Vietnam walked in the front door. And he looked at me, I looked at him and no words were said. I knew and he knew. He went like this and put his hand out. And his words to me were, I had a job to do, you had a job to do. I shook his hand. And now I've had families come in the museum that are from Vietnam and so forth. They know nothing about it. They are so surprised to see pictures of what Vietnam was at that time or to hear a story. Anything. They know nothing. Because most of those people are gone, and we're starting to go now too. So it's actually helped me. But then the problem I get is, I mean, when I go to sleep at night, I still have Vietnam's going through my head. I'm going to the VA. I got PTSD. I have all the hearing, everything. But what I'm getting now is, and I hope it doesn't affect me. I'm sure my wife will let me know if I get really to that point. They're telling me all their stories, and they're all going in here. You know what I mean? Like the last guy just told me, he said, yeah, I can remember you guys in the helicopter. He said, I was on the ground, and we're bringing some of the dead people we're bringing back, and it's too high. It's 100 feet up, and you guys can't land. He said, I can still see the bodies being pushed out of the helicopter and then bouncing on the ground. American soldiers. He says, that's the only way we get them there, to get them out of there. But he says, I dream of that every day. He said, just seeing the bodies come out of the helicopter. You know, there's...
Well, I'm going to make an observation. I've done a lot of interviews in 6 years, over 600 of them, and a lot of them have been with World War II veterans. But listening to the Vietnam vets, now my Vietnam film is being used by the VA to help guys with post-traumatic stress disorders. They feel... the head of the vet centers in Washington, D.C. is a psychologist, and he watched the film. He feels it has therapeutic value in that when the Vietnam vets watch that, they're hearing their comrades talk about these things, and they're feeling like it's okay. So what they did was they bought 250 copies of my film, distributed them all the vet centers across the country, and I'm proud of that. My point is, without making a comparison, but it seems like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but after talking to Vietnam vets, it seems like you guys were, I'm going to say, more emotionally traumatized than maybe some of the World War II vets. Is that a fair assumption?
That's yeah.
I mean, with a lack of better words, that's just the way it came out. But there's been, I know a lot of it was the way you came home. There was no homecoming. There was a lot. You're in combat one day, the next day you're home. It's like, how do you transition? Well, let me ask you,
that's it.
How was your transition from Vietnam back to civilian life?
Alcohol. I came home and my father met me at the airport, and they were having, where I lived with the first wife, there was a sign that said, welcome home, Tom. But other than that, there was nothing. But my father took me right to the VFW. Not even to home yet, right to the VFW. I sat there and got bombed. Then I went home to meet the family. And that's when it started. And I just stopped drinking. Make a long story short, after the military, I became a police officer for 23 years. Retired, had triple bypass. Everything that went along with the uniform to uniform, I could handle what I saw in the police department from what I saw in Vietnam. And then I retired and so forth. But the drinking stopped when I had the open heart surgery. That's when I stopped drinking. Drinking, smoking, I was smoking 5 packs of cigarettes a day. And that all stopped at that point. And I've been, you can ask her, it's been 11 years we moved down here.
So what had a greater impact on your life? 2 years in the service or 23 years in law enforcement?
2 years in service, yeah.
What do you attribute that, what do you attribute that to versus 23 years in law enforcement?
Well, I wasn't even grown up. I was a kid. I was 19 years old in Vietnam when I just told you, and one of those pictures you see. I'm 19 years old. I had no childhood. It was taken away from me in Vietnam. I came back a totally different person than when I went to Vietnam. Totally. I didn't drink before I went to Vietnam. Didn't smoke. None of that. Everything was acquired there. And everything I went into my head stayed there. I mean, still now, I mean, I never thought I would kill a person. Nobody does. But then when you have to do what you have to do, yeah.
Well, you've kind of reawakened something in me just talking, because I haven't talked to the Vietnam vets for a while. But the stories are very close to my heart. I mean, what you went through. I remember a friend of mine in high school. His brother went to Vietnam, and he came home, and all I remember is he stayed inside his room and never came out. And I thought that was kind of weird. Back then, I was 15.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's like, I think the Vietnam vet gets a bad rap.
We always have, and the reason that this is me, not my opinion, no one else's. There's out of the 100% of men that went to Vietnam, 20% saw combat, were involved in combat. 80% were not. I mean, it couldn't have been done without the 100% of men. But I mean, the guys that had in the back area jobs and so forth. The 20% that saw that, I mean, it closed up. We closed up like you wouldn't believe. But the other 80%, the way we got treated when we came back, you just didn't admit you were a Vietnam vet, because if you did, people would walk away from you. They would spit at you. I mean, I came back in California, Travis Air Force Base, and we came out, and you couldn't wear your uniform, but you walk out, and you're in civilian clothes, and you walk out, and they're still spitting at you. They actually took balloons and urinated and threw the balloons at you, throw cans, anything they could, the chance that we're here, and no matter where you landed to go home, it was still there. Still there. I had friends of mine when I came back. Oh, you're in Vietnam? Oh, okay. And that's the last I would hear them talk to me. It was like taboo. I think that all comes from nothing against the guys today. I'm glad they're getting everything that they're getting when they come back. But the difference is, this is what I'm figuring in my head, they're going over to Iraq as a unit. We went to Vietnam as an individual. They put you on a plane or on a the only ones that went together as a unit would be the ones that went by boat. There wasn't too many of them. But you go over, your time is done. The guys coming to replace you. Like when I wanted to come home, I landed at their mission. They come over and said, all right, go pack your stuff up and get on that helicopter, you're going home. I had no time to train the man that was replacing me or nothing. He got the same thing I got, sit in that seat. Then I went up to what they call Tan Son Nhut or Benoit up there to get the big bird home. I spent 4 days up there waiting to get on the jet. But that quick, when I came back, boom, you're going home.
I totally agree with you. The deployment as an individual versus a group, it just was detrimental.
Right.
It was terrible.
Every time, like I say, nothing against the men today, but every time I see them on television, it hurts. And I think it hurts every Vietnam vet. But it's great for them. I'm glad they're remembering it.
Well,
so
I guess the lesson to be learned is how to welcome our troops home. I mean,
right.
They go to airports now and welcome them
Right.
home, and it's almost hypocritical of our society that we did that. But anyways,
It's tough.
you know, it's you know, I feel for you guys. I really do. I mean, and I hope that maybe it's being made up today somehow. Some of the guys are very bitter. They don't allow that to happen. But
A lot are bitter. I used to be bitter, but I've come a long way.
Well, I'm enjoying talking to you. This is good. Can you tell me about your last day in Vietnam? Was there any remorse, regret? I mean, did you shout, or was it just like very somber, time to get out of here, glad when leaving?
No, I actually prayed. When I got to Benoit and so forth, like I told you, my day went quick like that. It was only an hour or so to fly up to there. And then I sat there for 4 days, and then we finally got the flight and so forth. We get on the plane, I'm sitting on the plane, and I'm actually praying, don't shoot it down. Once you got up, 10,000 feet, you were fine. After that, it was a sigh of relief. Everybody is screaming. Everybody is happy. The stewards would come around. Anything you wanted, they would give to you. They weren't supposed to, but they said, heck with it. They'll give you, you want a drink, you want this, you can have it, anything that you want. But up until I got to 10,000 feet and above, because a SAM missile will blow that right out of the sky. And that's what I was worried. I was going home.
I can only imagine the emotions you went through at that point till you got home. I mean, it's like you've been released from hell.
Right.
You know?
Right. And then you come into like Philadelphia Airport and it's actually cold. And you've got summer things on. And it's like when you hit Vietnam, when that plane lands and it's all air conditioning, and United Airlines flew us over. And you get to that door, you take your first step out, and it just hits you right in the face. The smell, the heat, everything. I can still feel that. Like I can still feel the warm water in the rice paddy with the first crash. I can feel that. Every time I talk about it, I feel it.
That's one of my questions I forgot to ask you, you know, your arrival to Vietnam, and you just described that. I'm interested also in, we're not going to talk about it now, but I'm producing a film eventually called Beyond the Badge. It deals with people who served in law enforcement. Would that interest you someday if I were to ask you questions about your law enforcement career? So put that in the back of your mind.
Sure.
But I have a question though. When you were working in law enforcement, when things got tough, maybe stressful, the tensions, whatever, maybe a domestic situation, or you pulled your weapon, I mean, did any of that bring back Vietnam at all?
Mm-hmm. Every time I touch that weapon. Every time. Whether it was just put my hand on it or take it out.
Do you ever have to fire your weapon? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where did you
Yeah, I have kind of, I tell my wife this all the time, I have kind of bad luck. If anything's going to happen, it's going to happen to me or when I worked, the town I worked in was 0.8 of a square mile. There were 12 police officers.
Sheriff's Department or police?
Police.
Okay.
It's a town called Darby Borough in Delaware County.
I was born there. No.
Well, but that's where it was. And there was over 19,000 people in that 0.8 of a square mile.
Wow.
So it was constant everything. But anybody that got hit by a train, any shootings, it all happened on my shift. So I had to handle it. And I even have photographs of it, because I had to take photographs of everything. I have a suitcase like this.
My. We'll talk about that sometime.
Yeah.
Make a note of that. Don't forget, because sometimes I'll meet veterans like yourself that have served in law enforcement, and I'm trying to begin work on that project. But anyways, okay. Vietnam, I mean, you know, to me, like I said, you mentioned Vietnam in society. People usually associate that with something negative.
Yes.
But my film, I'm going to give you a copy of it. It really brings out a positive image of the Vietnam vet. And although there have been struggles and things, but I'll have you I'll send you a copy. Okay.
Okay.
No, I'll send them a copy of that because I want you to watch that film. I think you can use it in your museum. I don't care what you do with it.
Sure.
But it just, listening to you again is bringing back all the memories again of the stories I've heard. But tell me just a quick overview of the Huey, what the Huey was used for, and how important it was to the success of the operations.
All of Vietnam, the whole, I call it a war, everybody else calls it a conflict or a police action because it was never declared a war. Same with Korea. That was it. That was the war. That was the mode of fighting. Transportation, supply, everything was done with the Huey. Everything. If you went from point A to point B, you went by Huey. Everywhere. It was the backbone of Vietnam. And today it is actually, it's like the rabbit with the drum, the Huey. A friend of mine who's in that picture, he came back and he stayed in the military at Fort Indiantown Gap in Pennsylvania. He just got out because of the fact he's 60 years old and they throw you out. But he did the same job with the Huey there. They took him 2 years ago and sent him to Iraq with all the Hueys that they have, and they cocooned them, shipped them over, and all the people went with them, pilots and all, because the Black Hawks in Iraq were failing because of the weather conditions. They took the Hueys over there, and with the mechanics and everything, because a Huey mechanic can't work on a Black Hawk. And a Black Hawk mechanic can't work on a Huey. So they had to have their own separate groups. But he spent, now he's 58 years old, I mean, he was out like this, overweight, high blood pressure, everything. He went to Iraq for 1 year. And because the UE helped them until they got to the point, whatever they did to the Blackhawks, they're fine now. And then they came back. But that UE is like, I said that one ship that was blowing the smoke that day, it had to have over 300 holes in it. And it still kept flying. But 122 round will knock a UE out of the sky. If it's in the right spot, you hit a hydraulic line, both pilots can't hold that. They cannot hold that.
Are there sights, sounds, or smell today that bring Vietnam back to you?
Every time I hear the UE, that goes back. Sometimes I go past a Oriental diner or restaurant, and that smell, because the smell is not something you'll forget.
When you're going through the difficult times, combat, what gets you through the hard times? Your training, your faith in God? How do you get through those times?
In Vietnam, the guys that you work with, they get you through it. I mean, on a UE, you got 4 people, 2 pilots and 2 crew members, and you're constantly together. There's no such thing as, once you get on the ship, no such thing like sir. He might be a colonel, he might be a captain. You got to survive. The 4 of you have to survive. If you don't do something right on this side, it's going to affect the people on that side. You got to work together, and you become very, very close.
Well, tell me about the camaraderie and how close do you get if you lose your buddy? How close do you want to get?
That hurts. Unfortunately, I didn't lose anybody that was on my crew. Got banged up a little bit, but I didn't lose anybody. But some guys that we knew. I'll give you, for instance, when you come back in after a mission, a lot of guys would fly their helicopters over top of the runway. You're not supposed to do it in a tight pattern. You're not supposed to do it, and the door gunners would hang out with a smoke grenade and let the smoke go. Well, this company up the runway from us, they're coming back and they're coming in from the other end, and then we're standing out in the runway watching, because they would stand out there and watch us, because we did it too. You're not supposed to, all you hear is the radio saying, do not, but they do it anyway. And they're coming in, and they got too close. The 2 ships were like this. One was up here, one was here. And we knew the guy, but not really. We knew him to say hello, talk to the guy. And in fact, all of them. There was 2 ships came like this, and this bottom ship got too close. And the main rotor blades cut the door gunner right in half. They had a piece of his spine was holding him together. And both ships crashed right there in the runway. And there's a lot of casualties. They threw the guy that cut in half, they threw him on a helicopter and tried to get him to a hospital real quick, but he died en route. But it's,
What are your thoughts, 19 years old, you're seeing
Right.
this unfold, when you first start, you're getting it. What are your thoughts about life and death and even war when you're putting a body bag in a helicopter?
Well, you look at it like this, the way I looked at it was, I'm 19, I'm young, I'm invincible. It's not going to happen to me. And that's the attitude that I went through. So, I say the government took the youth away from the guys that went there. Most of the guys were from like 20 and below that went to Vietnam. Most of them were drafted.
Tell me about the emotion you felt the first time you went to the wall in Washington, D.C., and maybe some of the names you were looking for.
Well, you'd have to ask my wife that, because she went with me. I don't remember how I reacted the first time. The 3 times after that, I took people that said they'd never go. I said, I'll go with you to go. But the first time, I even went in uniform, I think. Did I? My fatigues and everything, the first time I went. I go in civilian clothes now, or with a museum shirt and so forth, because I take guys that haven't went and didn't want to go. I talk them into going. So.
Good. I think that's...
Oh yeah,
I've been there. You'll see in the film that I do an actual video with John Fogerty's song at the wall. It's a great song.
Yeah.
And wow, what do you think about patriotism? I mean, you're in combat. You said when you're in a helicopter, it's no sir this, sir that. I mean, how does patriotism factor into your service during Vietnam?
Well, in Vietnam, I went to Vietnam because we were told that the communists were from the north were going to take over the south and make a communism, and then from there it could spread to the United States. So that's why I went. But once I got there and I saw my first friend die, that was my reason for being there.
Survival.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. Now there were good times, there were bad times, but you know.
Were there drugs in Vietnam?
There were drugs. If you wanted drugs, you can get anything you want. I don't know if I should dime myself out, but
I'm not.
no.
It's not like I'm a police officer.
Yeah, I know. Well, this goes back to Vietnam. Everyone that went in Vietnam, I'd say 90% tried whatever was there. Now, I happened to try, what do you call it? The Papa son, who would sit in the rice paddy, he would have this cigarette about that long, it was about that, it was pretty thick. And we called it a B-52, because it was that big. And I tried one of those. I smoked it, and I lost 3 days that to this day, I don't remember anything for 3 days. Now, I flew on missions.
Oh, boy.
And I haven't the faintest idea. But then I find out the Papa son, that's supposed to last you 3 days. But I smoked it all in 1 day. And that was the last of it. I was done. I tried it.
Don't you think a lot of that was because of the culture, our society in the 60s? I mean, it was just an overflow of what was happening here. I mean, and alcohol, I know, was widely used in all wars. So,
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
but what a time, huh?
Yeah, it's something to remember. I mean, there's all kinds of other things that, but
Well,
they'll come out eventually.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not here.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate to hear things for the first time, though, which is humbling for me. Listening to stories of all wars, from World War II to Iraq. But I've heard things people never told their family members before. So
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Who am I?
She probably hasn't heard some of the things I just said.
Are you proud that you're a Vietnam veteran?
Yes, I am. Proud as can be. And any Vietnam vet is not proud, and you're hiding in a closet somewhere, come out of the closet and let people know who you are. It's about time.
That was very well said. Thank you. How does it feel when people thank you for your service? And I'm assuming they do.
That feels great. Now people are coming up and they come to the museum and wherever I go, and if I have a hat on or something like that, they come up and say, thank you, and they shake my hand. And that feels great. It feels great. Before, you'd have to not wear the hat if they knew. But it's still got a lot has to change. It's starting to change to the better.
Do you think it's important, Tom, that vets talk about their experiences, or
Yes.
should they hold it inside?
That's the only person you can talk to is a vet. When you're a Vietnam vet, I've noticed in the museum more than outside. When I'll just give you a quick, for instance, I had 4 or 5 Vietnam vets come in, and they don't know each other, and they had their wives with them. They're all in different parts of the museum. Now, in Vietnam, there was a thing called the law. That's a late anti-tank weapon. I have a couple of those. So the one guy's overlooking, calls his wife over and says, oh, look, this is what we used. And the other ones heard about it, and they went over. They spent almost 2 hours standing around there talking about, yeah, my unit was, and the wives are going, because they never talk to another vet. You can do it. Talk to a civilian, they won't do it because of the way they were treated.
So who called you from the funeral home? John?
John's dad.
What was your thought when he asked you? I mean, was it like, yeah, man, I'll come talk, or did you have to think about it?
No, I didn't have to think about it at all. My object until the day that I happened to be in here in a box is to not let Vietnam die. We go to schools with the museum, colleges. I've been to Alabama, Texas, Florida, West Virginia. Anybody wants us to bring an exhibit, we bring the actual artifacts to them.
Do you charge them to go there?
If they pay for the gas and tolls.
Well, they should pay you, yeah. Good.
You know, that's what we charge. I mean, we spend, was about 3 weeks ago, we went to a middle school over here and spent all day, 700 kids. And you get in front of those kids, and the first question I ask is, what do you know about Vietnam? And the answer is, what is that? They have no idea. But by the time I leave, they do. So I want to keep Vietnam alive, at least as long as I'm alive. Then she will, and my son, my daughter, continue on with the museum and continue on what we're doing.
Well, I surely commend you for what you're doing. I maybe somehow we can work together too, because
Sure.
I want to go into schools and educate our young people, and as one person I can't do it by myself, so maybe we can hook up in this area sometime, or even with the funeral home, and we can do
Sure.
an outreach to the schools.
Sure, the schools will they're starting to bring classes to the museum now. So, I mean,
I think it'd be a great opportunity for all of us.
sure.
I think it would. So, well, I'm glad I
Yeah.
met you, man.
Well,
This has been encouraging. I think I've asked all my questions, and I'm gonna ask you to do something. I hope it's okay. But at the end of my films, I always have the veterans give me a salute into the camera.
mm-hmm.
Is that something from where you're seated? When I ask you, can you do for me?
Sure,
Okay. And it's kind of my trademark, my signature. So.
sure, no problem. No problem.
Okay, Tom, right in the camera. Give me a salute, sir. Thank you. Excellent.